Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to watch a video from a YouTuber whose channel is called About This Much. The name of the video is Do This Instead of Making a New Year's Resolution. I hope you enjoy.
I think I'm going to lose 10 pounds this year. You know what? No more junk food. This is the year I'm finally going to get into shape. Come on, you and I both know neither of those are going to last more than a month or two. New Year's resolutions kind of suck, and only about 6% of people actually keep them past that first year. I want to help you become part of that 6%, so I did a little bit of research to better understand what separates those who succeed at keeping their New Year's resolutions and the 94% who don't. So let's start off 2024 with a formula for success. Typically, a New Year's resolution is a tradition in which a person resolves to continue good practices, change an undesired trait or behavior, accomplish a personal goal, or otherwise improve their behavior at the beginning of a calendar year. So we already know that most people don't keep up with their New Year's resolutions.
Real quick, am I the only one that at various jobs throughout my life around New Year's, they would start to ask questions? And I think it was just to get everybody involved, but they would start to ask us what your New Year's resolution was going to be. And to be honest with you, 90% of the time, I didn't even have a New Year's resolution. So my question for you is, did you ever just make up one so you didn't seem off? Because I have. I just made up resolutions because I didn't want to seem like the only person that never really had a New Year's resolution. Let me know down in the comments.
Luckily, Forbes Health has already put together some of this information. Through some of their polls, they discovered that the average New Year's resolution lasts a little under 4 months, and only about 6% of respondents stick with their New Year's resolution past a year. So if people keep making all of these goals, why aren't they working? It seems to come down to two things: unrealistic goals and lack of specificity. Unrealistic includes anything that's overly ambitious, having an all or nothing mentality, or a lack of relevance to your day-to-day. Let's say you want to eat less junk food this year. Now, does that sound pretty realistic if you live in a food desert, you're surrounded by fast food, and if you don't really cook most of your meals? Probably not. I'll get into some more details about that a little later. Just stay with me for now. Now, if your goal lacks specificity, that could just mean you don't have any success metrics, something to measure against. You might not have a plan, or the goal might just be too lofty or vague. Think about it this way. If you want to lose 10 pounds, how'd you come up with that number? Is 9.5 okay? Do you even care about the number 10 pounds? Or do you just want to look good naked? What does looking good even look like? I think it's safe to say that a lot of people would actually appreciate putting on 10 pounds of muscle rather than losing 10 pounds of arbitrary weight.
I agree with what he said there, but in a different way. I think a lot of times people tell themselves, I want or I need to lose 40, 50, 60 pounds. And what they don't give credit to is the fact that a lot of times, if they just lose 15, 20, 25 pounds in a way where you kind of get rid of some fat, but kind of gain a little muscle at the same time, a lot of times you'll be amazed at how good it looks.
The other issue with New Year's resolutions is that you're already starting off on a bad foot. Why are you waiting until next week to do something that you can start doing tonight? If you start your goal by already giving yourself excuses and reasons why you can't do the thing that's important to you, you're probably going to end up self-sabotaging down the line.
And that's why I chose this video for today. Guys, we're about 4 months or so from the new year. And considering what he just said, that only 5 or 6% of people keep their resolution beyond 4 months, my thinking is that means it doesn't really exist. It's just a dream we have for tomorrow, right? The best way to do things when it comes to your resolution is to do them right now.
A lot of times, these health-related goals aren't actually the end result. They're the byproduct of a certain lifestyle or habits. Whether you want to lose weight, get fit, eat healthier, think about anyone that you might look up to who already does that. Did they ever stop because they finished or because they won? Probably not. They're just about that life, period. So that's why part of the mentality shift I think you're going to need if you really want to take this seriously is about forming habits and having a plan. This is going to put you on the path towards your goal without actually just concerning yourself with the end result, because you can't really guarantee when the end result will arrive. It might take 2 months, it might take a little longer than a year, but you'll feel a lot better and you're more likely to stay on track if you have some sort of framework to keep you going in the right direction. Let's talk about what does work. So a lot of gurus out there will say you need accountability and deadlines. I think what's even more important is specifics that you can measure. So instead of saying, I want to lose 10 pounds, Put some specifics behind this. Maybe instead of losing 10 pounds, you want to get your cholesterol to a healthier level at your next checkup. And now that might not sound as glorious as the initial goal, but now we're on track to set up a plan that's more likely to get you there. We already know what helps you with cholesterol. Eating more fiber, exercise, more whole foods, omega-3 fatty acids, etc. So now you have a few metrics that you can track monthly, weekly, daily. It's up to you. I prefer the cold turkey approach. But for those of you who aren't all about 100% diving in right away, focus on improving and adding more of the good behaviors instead of focusing so much on the bad ones. So if your resolution is something like, I want to eat less junk food this year, why don't we shift that over to, I would like to eat more whole foods this year? That way the goal becomes more focused on doing more of the good thing and not really concerning yourself with the other stuff. I know for me, if there is ice cream in the fridge or cookies on the counter, it's a lot harder to pass that up. So just completely avoiding them and finding things to replace them is going to be the key to success. You could do little things like bringing some fruit to work, leaving it on your counter. So that way, anytime you do get a little bit of that snack craving, you can just grab a banana, an apple, and just chomp away at it. You have to make sure your goals are specific to you. If you don't really have a lot of healthy foods around you and you're just surrounded by junk food, you're going to want to switch up your environment. That means don't keep any snacks around. And if you don't know how to cook, hop on YouTube, type in some tutorials on boiling water and figure it out. Or I've got a whole bunch of recipes. You can check those out. If every day after work you like to stop off and get some fast food, you're probably just hungry. That's where a little bit of preemptive planning comes into play. You can carry some fruit with you, snack bars, protein powder. That way you can have that as a little snack when you're leaving work, so you're less tempted to get the junk food on your way home. All of
This guy's channel is called About This Much, and I got to be honest with you, he, just like the gentleman we listened to yesterday, this guy's really got a great voice. I think he's going to be a star if he isn't already.
But this is what you have to do until the habit actually forms. So I think that's a good starting point for most of you. You got some actionable steps, but let's break down some of the top New Year's resolutions and see how we could apply this framework to increase our chances of success with them. So again, Forbes came in pretty clutch here. They already put together a survey for 2024. And according to this survey, the most common New Year's resolutions, I keep saying New York, for 2024 are improved fitness, improved finances, improved mental health, to lose weight, and improve diet. So let's get into that a little bit. For fitness, again, ask yourself, why do you want this? What is it about fitness that's important to you? Is it just about feeling young again? Do you want to be active? Do you want to run a marathon? Again, look good naked? And this is going to help you make some decisions on what you're likely to stick to. Maybe that'll be meeting up with people and playing a sport. Maybe you're just going to jog solo, some workout classes, or probably the number one thing that is super underrated is walking. It's already recommended you 30 minutes of brisk walking every day, and I'm pretty sure most of us live way more sedentary lifestyles than that. So now you can set that as a goal to every day go for a 30-minute walk, whether that be going to the park, walking to the store to pick something up, doing a few laps around your neighborhood. The reason doesn't really matter. As that starts to become easier, you can start to add in other things. Maybe you increase the walk, maybe you increase the difficulty, endless options. And if you're familiar with Blue Zones at all, one of the things they all have in common is that they walk a lot. No fancy equipment, no gyms, no sports. Just the fact that they're walking so often every day is enough to keep them in shape and outliving the rest of us.
Bravo, that was awesome. Listen, Venters, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go to About This Much's page, and I need you to subscribe to him, and I need you to leave him a message on his last video and tell him that he is doing a disservice to himself. He needs to come back to YouTube and start doing some videos again. This guy's a star. He just doesn't know it yet. Anyway, guys, I think that all those top 5 things that people like to resolve to do, get better finances, get better health, eat less sugar, be more active, I think we can take care of all of those in one easy step. Going on walks. So why don't you go get your shoes? Let's go for a walk.
morning, Venters. Happy Saturday. For me, it's TGIF, so good days for both of us. I challenge you guys to do a double walk today. You're gonna walk for half an hour. It's Saturday. Why not walk for a whole hour? You know, a lot of times when we're walking through the neighborhood, I'm walking by old classmates and friends. I'm walking by their childhood homes. And a lot of times it provides me a flashback type situation. It's kind of like watching a movie where they have a flashback scene, and sometimes I find myself getting emotional. A lot of times I find myself giggling because, let's be honest, when it comes to our childhood memories, they're not all sad and emotional. Some of them are downright hilarious. So I want to share a little flashback moment that I had yesterday. I was driving by Metro Center, which is a mall that I grew up in, or grew up with, not in, thank goodness. And it was the most popular mall in Phoenix, Arizona for quite a few years when I was younger. It was the most cool mall in the world. But as you guys probably know, all around this country, malls and shopping centers have been going by the way of the dinosaur, right? A lot of places closing. Well, as I drove by the mall, I went by a place where there was a blank lot. And this blank lot is actually a reserved parking lot of another place that's going by the dinosaur called Golf and Stuff. It's now called Castles and Coasters, but in the 80s it was called Golf and Stuff. And if you guys don't know what Golf and Stuff is, you guys might remember from The Karate Kid Part 1, where Danielson and his girlfriend went on like a date to a little theme park. That little theme park, I believe, was called Golf and Stuff, or at least that version of the theme park where I grew up is called Golf and Stuff. So check this out. In that extra parking lot back in the year 1994 or 95, I forget which one exactly, but they had a haunted house. If you guys love going to haunted houses every year for Halloween, let me know. Out here in Arizona, it literally becomes a part-time business where every Halloween these places come up where you walk through and they try to scare you. And I love them, and I'm sure you guys love them too. But here's the thing. As I've gotten older, where they used to be a yearly tradition for me and friends to go to the haunted houses, guys, I haven't gone to a haunted house in probably over a decade. And that's on me. I need to go again. They are a lot of fun. But let me tell you about an embarrassing ass moment that happened. This was one of these moments that when it happened, and for a couple years after, I was really sore about it. But as time went on and people would giggle when I shared this story with them, I slowly but surely got to the point where I realized, you know what? I'm glad this happened to me. Was it super embarrassing and actually a low point in my life for a little while? Sure, but after a while you realize, hey, this is a great story that I can share with people for the rest of my life. And now, believe it or not, it makes me giggle. So I want you to know that when you hear this story, if you put yourself in my shoes 25, 30 years ago, it was kind of sad and disappointing. But if you look at it from my viewpoint now, I'm glad it's a story that I can share with you guys. And if you can commiserate on this story, let me know down in the comments. Just know that no matter what you say, it doesn't hurt me. It's a fun little story, so I'm glad to share it with my Venters. So my fiance at the time was the mother of my daughter. Her name is Angie. And I loved Angie with all my heart. I wanted to marry her and be with her forever, but things don't necessarily always work out. But this particular year, we went with Lisa and Dawn, and we went on a double date to a haunted house. Now, this haunted house, once again, was in this lot right by Metro Center. So anyway, we go to this haunted house, and the first thing that happens always makes me smile because this is a funny little mini story attached to it. As we're walking up to the haunted house, this really tough looking, looked like a football player, you know, probably 6'2", 240 pounds, just a real thick guy with his buddies. He comes out of this haunted house, and he goes, man, that wasn't shit, none of that shit scares me, blah, blah, blah. And his buddies are like, you weren't scared? You know, and they're all laughing and giggling. And all of a sudden, 3 seconds later, one of the workers from the haunted house comes out with his saw, because, you know, they have electric saws that are just ready to like go off and make noise and scare you. They literally put these saws right by your face and they scare the heck out of people, right? And so this guy comes out of the haunted house, goes right behind the guy that's talking all tough, and all of a sudden he taps him on the shoulder, runs his saw, and the guy freaks out and literally wants to fight the guy. But it was so funny because everyone started laughing. So it quickly went from him wanting to fight it to, you know, why are you embarrassing me in front of my friends? Because it was just funny. Imagine a guy walking out of the house walking out of a haunted house, and he's like, man, nothing scares me. I'm the toughest guy in the world, you know? 3 seconds later, he's scared as all heck. It was the funniest thing. So anyway, this same haunted house, me, Angie, Lisa, and Dawn, we go into this haunted house, and we're in there, and there's smoke, and there's weird sounds, and there's a lot of people screaming, and you can hear chainsaws going off left and right, and it's just a great haunted house. All of a sudden, my girlfriend, Angie, gets freaked out to the point where she's starting to feel claustrophobic and she can't breathe. And I'm holding her hands and I'm trying to hold her whole body close to me like, hey, don't be scared. You wanted to come here. It's a haunted house. It's fun, right? And we're going through, and she's just having progressively a little bit more hard time breathing, like her body's having like a freakish reaction. And it was so crazy because right when she was at her worst, a guy brought one of these electric chainsaws right by her face, and it just took her over the edge. And instead of screaming out, you know, help me Jesus, or help me Jesse, or help me, I'm in pain, or I'm suffering, or whatever the heck she was going through at the time, she did the absolute worst thing that she could say. This was her exact words. I'll try to say it the way she did. Dawn! 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 Now you might be thinking, what the hell does that mean? That was my buddy Dawn's name. She's sitting here calling out his name like she wants him to rescue her. And you might be thinking, well, Jesse, you're a little guy. Maybe your buddy Dawn's 6'2", 250 pounds. No, my buddy Dawn was built just like me, 5'9", 125, 130 pounds, soaking wet. So every time I would tell this story, people would be like, oh my God, that's kind of horrible. Because imagine you're sitting there holding your girlfriend's hand and she's calling after your double date's date. You know, she's calling out after your buddy Dawn. And you might be thinking, oh my God, did her and Dawn do anything? I don't think so. I don't think they had a relationship like that. So what just happened was a vehicle was driving by the park and saw these people in the park with their dog and decided to stop along the road and literally blare their horn just to wave hello. And there's no problem with doing that. You can do that if you want. But considering it's 7 a.m. in the morning, and yeah, even though people are working, people are still sleeping, I don't really understand the necessity of blaring your horn. But isn't that how life is, guys? Do you guys do that sometimes too? I'm sure we all do these little rude things and we don't realize how rude they are. At 7 in the morning, I don't care if it's Monday morning, assume people are sleeping and try to go through the neighborhood without having to wake up everybody. I see the same thing in my neighborhood. I have this guy on a motorcycle and he literally drives around at 5:30, 6 in the morning playing love songs. Now, to be honest with you, I haven't seen his motorcycle in about, probably going on a year, which leads me to believe that maybe he either moved or is no longer with us. But this guy would take his motorcycle and just play love songs at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, blaring as loud as he could have it on his motorcycle. It was the most crazy looking thing. Love songs. But I'm sure we can all agree at 5 or 6 in the morning, you don't want to hear any songs, let alone love songs. So anyway, picture this. I believe at the time I was 18 years old. I'm embarrassed as all hell. I didn't even know what to do the rest of the night, because it's like when your girlfriend's in trouble, she didn't think to call you. She's literally yelling out your buddy's name. It was crazy. There's only one thing worse. You're making love to a woman and she calls out your buddy's name. That would be worse, right? So guys, this is one of those things that bothered me, but now I find it so funny, because if you would have been there, oh my God, it was funny because basically how embarrassing it was to me. And to be honest with you, if I was Angie, I would be kind of embarrassed by that too. That's just something you don't do to your boyfriend, right? But there's also a piece of me that says, you know what? When you're claustrophobic, when you're scared, sometimes you can't help your bodily reaction. I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure you guys have heard this, that a lot of times when strangers come up and they do weird things to people, maybe even assault them, a lot of times people will tell you, I didn't know what to do. I was shocked. I was in shock. I just sat there while the person did these horrible things to me, because sometimes that's what happens to the body. We just kind of go into shock mode, right? And in her case, she wasn't in shock mode. She just did whatever naturally happened to her body, which in this case was calling out my buddy's name. So I thought you guys would get a kick out of that. That was one of those things that happened simply because I drove by a landmark that gave me a little bit of a flashback. Hey, I don't know if you guys can see my shorts. These are my white pair of shorts. I almost went with my navy blue shorts. And ladies, you guys have bought clothing for your husbands, and guys, you guys have bought certain slacks before. Have you ever purchased a piece of clothing that has like an extension piece? So that, let's say you're a waist size 32, you can unhook the little extension piece, and you can make it where all of a sudden, even if you gain a couple of pounds, you can extend it up to like a size 36. And vice versa. You start losing weight, you can undo the extension, and you can make your clothing back to size 32. You guys follow me? Okay, good. So check this out. There's a clothing company called She, which stands for Style Her Empowered, okay? Its founder was a girl named Peyton McGriff from the University of Idaho, I should say a woman. She started this nonprofit company in 2017 as part of a class project, okay? Her mission? Guys, her mission was to remove financial barriers that prevented girls in Togo, Africa, from finishing their education by providing school uniforms, okay? All right, so She is a company of school uniforms for kids in Togo, Africa. So the impact is that she went from this one community in Togo, Africa, to now well over 20 and growing. Really wonderful company. It enables the girls to have a uniform that grows with them because it has extra folds of fabric. So just like I was describing my shorts going from a waist size 32, you use the extension and it goes all the way up to a waist size 36. No different than a belt, right? With a belt, you can adjust it to different lengths. That's how these clothings were. And if you look at a picture here, look, you can see how it can go from like a third grader size all the way up to like a high school senior size. Guys, that's ingenuity. That's something that can really change lives. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't really like the idea of having the same uniform from, third grade to 12th grade. But you guys want to know something? If it means the difference between staying in school, getting an education or not, then by golly, we'll get used to wearing that same uniform. We can always wash it and keep it clean. And if we have to replace it, I think we can all agree it's better to replace a piece of clothing once or twice during your school career than every couple of months. You know what I mean? So Peyton McGriff was named as the 2024 CNN Hero of the Year award winner. Doesn't this sound like clothing that they should bring to America? Start making it where whenever we have kids that are in impoverished neighborhoods and they go to a school where there is a school uniform, why not provide them with a school uniform that's just like we're discussing, something that can grow with the kids? So I thought that was really interesting. That's also an advantage of being a girl, I think, is that with girls, a lot of times you're able to wear a dress where, you know, you can technically go from it being super long when you're little, and then as you get taller, it gets a little bit shorter, but it's still a dress. With guys' clothing, you can't necessarily do that with pants, because otherwise you're gonna have high water pants. But then again, who knows, maybe with the expanding technology, maybe they can make it where it can expand down there at the ankles as well. So let me ask you guys this. You guys are walking constantly. Is there any of you that, like me, find themselves walking in an old neighborhood that they grew up in? Maybe you're in your 20s and you're still very much in the neighborhood that you grew up in. Do you have these little moments where you walk by an old friend's house where he or she might have moved away and you get a nice little flashback? If so, you're probably like me. Some of those flashbacks are better than others, right? But at the same time, I'm at an age now where even those flashback memories of mine that aren't so fun, they're fun now. Guys, we all have humiliating moments. We all have these moments that make us sad where we feel like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever, right? But at the same time, when you know deep down that other people go through those same embarrassing moments, then all of a sudden it's something that brings us together. So again, if you have some funny dating stories or some experiences where maybe you lost a girlfriend or a boyfriend and it's a fun little story that you can share, please do. Because keep in mind, somebody out there might be thinking, gosh, every time I have a boyfriend, my boyfriend breaks up with me, or my boyfriend cheats on me, or my girlfriend does this, that, and the other. Guys, if you think that you're the only victim out there whose boyfriend or girlfriend has done wrong by them, you are sadly mistaken. So the good news is we can take joy in knowing that darn near all of us have gone through these crappy situations. They're actually blessings in disguise. So let's bring this over to our walk. Guys, they are blessings in disguise. When you find out deep down that a person is not on your team, that they're on the opposing team, or that they never were a great friend for you, those are the people that you want them to show their true cards. You want them to get rid of their poker face and show you the reality. Hey, let's do math, LDM, that is a Mexican bird of paradise. So yesterday, LDM, let's do math, left me a comment. And the comment was like, hey, that bird of paradise that you walked by is fascinating. The bird of paradise plant and tree that I grew up with looks completely different than that. So then I thought, oh my God, did my mom tell me the wrong name for a plant that I've been using for the past 40 some odd years? So I Googled bird of paradise. Come to find out, guys, there's 5 different types of birds of paradise. And the one that LDM was describing that's out there in the Dominican Republic, those birds of paradise, while beautiful, look completely different than ours. Come to find out, ours is called the Mexican bird of paradise. And out of all of them, while they're all gorgeous looking shrubs or whatever they are, I think the Mexican one is the prettiest. I think the Mexican girls are pretty too. But you know, growing up in Arizona, we always had a lot of Mexican influence. My grandmother is actually a Mexican mariachi, or she was. And I'm going to show a picture of her here because I found a picture of her. Guys, that's my grandmother as a mariachi. Isn't that cool? Notice the Arizona state colors. I don't know if that's the reason for the colors, but I'm used to seeing mariachis in that black and white color coordination system. My grandma was in the maroon color. So again, I don't know if that had to do with Arizona State or what, but I just remember when I was growing up, my grandma was a mariachi band member, and all my friends thought it was the coolest, neatest thing. And looking back, I do too. I'm really proud of my grandma. She was a go-getter. She was the type that said, you know what? I want to teach myself how to play the guitar. And from the age of 60 on, she learned how to play the guitar. Now, I got to be honest with you. Me and my buddy Jason used to sneak down and watch my grandmother play. And we would giggle and laugh. Because my grandma would be like, E, 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 D, 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 or whatever the notes were. And she would say it out loud. And oh my goodness. It's not easy to teach an old dog new tricks, but man, we sure enjoyed watching my grandmother try to learn these techniques for playing the guitar. And hey, I gotta hand it to her. She did become a member of a mariachi group, so that's kind of cool. So anyway, back to what we were saying. Sorry that sometimes in the morning I babble, but I've got a million things that go through my mind, and then my mind's still a little bit asleep, so it's hard for me sometimes to get it out. But ultimately, when you walk, you're gonna have moments of flashbacks. Sean, you walk so many miles, and Lily, you walk so much, and Mala, you walk so consistently. I'm sure you can't help but sometimes have old thoughts pop up into your head. Even though you might not live in the same neighborhood you grew up in, you probably still see situations that remind you of childhood events. When you do, consider those things blessings, even if they're not so fun memories, because the reality is, no matter how tough and challenging and maybe even horrible your memories are, you survived them. And I think we need to give some credence to that. You know, a lot of times people go through these situations and they say, oh my God, you ruined my life, right? And a lot of times people's lives are ruined by the actions of others. But at the same time, we all grew up with this saying that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And guys, you want to know something? I never liked that saying because usually it's said to people after they go through something miserable, right? But I think we can all agree, whatever doesn't kill you does make you stronger because it gives you experience. And that experience can lead to empathy. So when you see other people that are going through a breakup, or they're going through financial struggles, or maybe it's tough for them to buy clothing for their kids for school, you know, you have a choice. Do you want to be a part of those people's lives and help them? Do you want to commiserate with the fact that sometimes we don't have a lot of money as people? Sometimes we get a good job or we start a business, things become successful. But you want to know something? I've seen a lot of people that have money one day, and then maybe they go through a divorce or a separation. And all of a sudden, their life is up in the air. It's full of turmoil. Now, what do we do in that situation? Do we pray for those people? Well, yeah, I suppose you could pray for those people, right? But at the same time, sometimes one of the best things to do is to try to learn from their mistakes. You know, does your girlfriend or your boyfriend, do they raise a lot of red flags? You know, do you really feel like they're on your team? Are they loyal to you? Because you know one thing I found out about both guys and girls? They're extremely wonderful and extremely loyal until they're not. Okay, notice I didn't say women, I didn't say men, I said guys and girls. Because a lot of times when we grow up, we don't realize the importance of having integrity. We don't realize the importance of doing the right thing. So that's why I always like to let you guys know, because I don't hear people talking about it very much to other adults. When you don't do the right thing, you are reverting back to childhood and teenage behaviors. You are an adult. We have a responsibility to the next generation and to the grandkids out there to lead by example. That means that when you come up to that fork in the road and you have an opportunity to do good or evil, you should always choose good, because that's the only choice that people should have, okay? So there are gonna come moments where people cheat on you, where people are not loyal to you. That doesn't mean that you need to take those feelings and transfer it to your next partner, because that's the messed up things that we do as human beings, right? Your partner cheated on you, so then you go up and then your next partner, you cheat on them. Now, I'm not accusing you of cheating on anybody in case you're listening, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. We have a lot of problems in this country with transferring things. Somebody gets molested, somebody gets abused. What do? They end up growing up and they end up molesting and abusing others. That's why we need to nip these evil things in society in the bud. That's why we got to stop things, because even if that person that did wrong made a decision never to do wrong again, hey, that's wonderful. They've turned a leaf in their life, right? But once you do bad by other people, it sets off this horrible domino effect. So sometimes what we have to say is, hey, this person wronged me. I am not going to get back at them by wronging somebody else. Don't look for victims to take advantage of. Go to the person in the mirror, accept the fact that that person has been wronged, forgive them for their discrepancies. In other words, I'm saying forgive yourself. It wasn't your fault that you were cheated on. It wasn't your fault that you were wronged. But you don't go and make that better by doing something evil yourself, okay? It would be very easy for me to do bad things. And to be honest with you, there was a time in my life where I wasn't necessarily the best husband, where I wasn't necessarily the best boyfriend or fiance. I didn't necessarily do horrible things that people did to me, but I'm sure if you were to ask my exes about bad things I've done, I'm sure that the bad things in their eyes would feel no different, okay? And in case you're wondering, what horrible things did Jesse do? I don't think I did anything that horrible, okay? But again, that's up to interpretation. If you were to ask my exes, I'm sure they would disagree. So what we can do as people is just try to learn from our mistakes. And you're a genius if you can learn from the mistakes of others and not repeat those. You know, it's funny because I bet while I'm talking, a lot of people are thinking about that situation where their husband did them wrong, or maybe their girlfriend or wife did them wrong. Forgive those people. You know why? Because if you're 45 or 50 years old now and you're still angry at some 19-year-old chick or some 19-year-old guy, God, you sure are putting a lot of pressure on the memory of some 19-year-old guy. And I don't know about you, I don't want to be judged by every goofy, stupid thing I did when I was 18 or 19 years old. And if you did some goofy stuff back then, I don't think you want to be judged by that either. So what we have to do is we have to say, hey, Billy, Joey, Denise, Carla, yeah, they ruined our lives. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to forgive them and we're going to move on. Had to do a battery change. So funny thing, this house right here that I did a battery change at, just I borrowed some shade in their carport right now, right? But that was my first ever crush's house. Her name was Sabrina Beezer. And I remember when she was 5 years old, there were a bunch of cars in her house and I was playing in my front yard and I noticed a bunch of kids that I went to school with. So I walk over here, found out it was Sabrina's house, found out that she was having a little birthday party because it was like her 5th or 6th grade party. So I ran back home and I grabbed a deck of cards that we had that was obviously used. And I put it in a little gift bag and I took it over to her house and I gave her it as a gift because, again, I had a crush on her. And I just remember her parents looking at the cards saying, are you sure that you don't want to keep these? These look like they're a nice set of cards, right? And the reason they were saying that, looking back, is because they were obviously used cards. The box they came in wasn't brand new by any means. But I still smile at that memory because that was me as a 5-year-old having a little crush on a little 5-year-old child, you know, or a 5-year-old girl. And that's one of my early memories. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was walking by her house and I saw who I believe was Sabrina, but I didn't know for sure. So I just kept on walking, but I think it was her. She ended up moving about a month or two after that. But I wish I would have stopped and said, Sabrina, is that you? Because I knew her all through my childhood years. I only liked her as a kindergartner. I didn't like her as a junior high person or a high school person, at least not, you know, in that way. Anyway, guys, as you're walking through your neighborhood, take a look at houses. Do they remind you of moments from your past? If they do, remember the moments with pleasure, even if they're bad moments. Guys, all those bad moments led to where we are now. So if you have a wife, if you have kids and stuff, you wouldn't have had those without those bad moments. So they are a part of the fabric of your lives. Have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.